He was a powerful tycoon, haunted by the pain of loss and the responsibility for his sensitive daughter. She, a gentle young nanny, tormented by a secret and deep guilt. As she brings light to his daughter's life, a subtle attraction sparks between them, and his heart softens. But her guilt becomes unbearable when his passion is revealed. In tears, she confronts him. "I have something to confess, Matthew. I'm the one to blame." The confession strikes him like lightning, but he forgives her. And then he proposes, revealing that, for him, her love and forgiveness are everything. Watch this story to the end. You will be surprised by this story. If you like love stories, romance, subscribe to this channel, leave your comment. We post videos like this every day. Continuing, Aurora Mendez adjusted her cleaning cart in the hallway of the 23rd floor of the Waldorf Astoria Premium Hotel, one of the most luxurious in the Santorini hotel chain. Her calloused hands organized the products with mathematical precision, each bottle in its place, each cloth folded the same way. At 35, she knew that routine as well as she knew the fatigue lines on her own face. Her cell phone vibrated in the pocket of her navy blue uniform, a text from her grandmother. "Aurora, my blood pressure medicine is out and Bruno needs school supplies." Aurora sighed, mentally calculating her tight budget. Her cleaning lady's salary barely covered the family expenses she had been supporting, alone since she was 18 when her parents died in a car accident. She pushed the cart to the presidential suite, discreetly admiring the gold trim on the door. In there, one night cost more than she earned in 3 months. Aurora knocked softly and, receiving no answer, used her master key. The room was spotless. The guests had checked out in the morning. While changing the towels in the marble bathroom, Aurora allowed herself a few seconds to imagine what it would be like to live in a place like that. Not out of greed, but out of curiosity. What would it be like to wake up without worrying if there would be money for gas? What would it be like to buy medicine without counting pennies? She shook her head, banishing the daydreams. Reality was reality. She was proud of her work, even if some guests treated her like furniture. Aurora knew how to be invisible when necessary, but she never lost her dignity. She took care of that hotel as if it were her own home. A mile away, on the 40th floor of the Santorini Tower building, Nicolas Almeida Montenegro was finishing a video conference with Japanese investors. At 38, he commanded an empire that included 23 luxury hotels, 3 casinos, and a chain of restaurants scattered throughout Latin America. Nicolas shut down his laptop and massaged his temples. Another meeting on expansion, more numbers to analyze, more decisions that would affect thousands of employees. Success had a price that he paid in loneliness and distrust. How many women had approached him interested only in his bank account? How many friends were really friends when it came to money? His secretary interrupted with a call. "Mr. Montenegro, your mother called to remind you about the charity gala tonight, and Dr. Patricia Silveira confirmed her attendance." Nicholas closed his eyes. Patricia Silveira, a plastic surgeon to New York's elite, daughter of a judge, the type of woman his family considered suitable for him, beautiful, cultured, from the same social class, and completely predictable. "Cancel my afternoon schedule. I'm going to do a surprise inspection at the Waldorf Astoria." It was his way of escaping the social traps that his position imposed. In the hotels, he was just a man watching his business run. There, away from the self-serving smiles, he could think. Nicholas arrived at the hotel wearing casual clothes, dark jeans and a dress shirt without a tie. He wanted to observe the natural flow, without fanfare. He walked through the hallways, noting every detail. The impeccable cleanliness, the courteous service of the employees, the perfect maintenance. On the 23rd floor, he stopped. A woman was pushing a cleaning cart, quietly humming a song. he didn't recognize. Aurora was so focused on organizing towels that she didn't notice him approaching. Nicholas watched as she folded each piece carefully, as if they were precious fabrics. "Excuse me," he said softly. Aurora turned around, startled. For a second, their eyes met. She saw a handsome, young-looking man with dark eyes that seemed to carry some weight. He saw a simple woman, but with a serene face and sincere eyes that didn't show the usual subservience he encountered. "Sorry, sir, is there a problem with the cleaning?" Aurora asked, quickly checking if she had forgotten anything. "No, on the contrary. I just wanted to compliment you on the excellent work." Nicholas noticed how surprised she was by the compliment. "Have you worked here long?" 17 years, sir. I started as an assistant and—" Aurora stopped, realizing that she might be talking too much with a guest. At that moment, the floor manager appeared in the hallway and paled upon recognizing Nicholas. "Mr. Montenegro, what an honor! If we had known about your visit—" Aurora felt her blood run cold. Montenegro, the owner of all this. The most powerful man she knew was there, talking to her as if she were a normal person. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment and surprise. Nicholas noticed the change in her expression and felt something strange in his chest. After so many years of being treated only for what he represented, finding someone who saw him first as a person awakened his curiosity in an unexpected way. "Keep up the excellent work," he said, glancing once more at Aurora before walking away with the manager. Aurora stood in the hallway, her heart racing, not because of the proximity to power, but because of the gentle way he had treated her before. He knew who he was, and mainly because of the way he had looked at her, as if she were visible. Over the next 3 days, Nicholas couldn't get Aurora out of his thoughts. During important meetings, he found himself remembering the natural way she hummed while working, the genuine surprise in her eyes when he complimented her. It was disconcerting how a common employee had made more of an impact on him than years of elaborate relationships. Aurora, in turn, felt disturbed. Every time she passed the 23rd floor, she remembered those dark eyes and that gentle voice. She scolded herself mentally. How could she be thinking about her boss? It was ridiculous, inappropriate. He probably didn't even remember her. On Thursday, Nicholas returned to the hotel. This time, it wasn't an official inspection. He simply needed to be there, even though he wouldn't admit the real reason, not even to himself. He found Aurora in the service hallway, organizing cleaning supplies. "Good afternoon," he said. Approaching, Aurora turned around quickly, knocking over a bottle of detergent that shattered on the floor. "Mr. Montenegro, I'm sorry, She knelt to pick up the shards, flustered. "Careful!" Nicholas crouched down too, preventing her from cutting her hand on a larger piece. The touch was brief, but electric. "Are you all right?" "Yes, sir. Sorry for the mess." Aurora avoided looking at him directly, embarrassed. "What's your name?" Nicholas asked, helping her up. "Aurora, sir. Aurora Mendes." "Aurora," he repeated, liking the sound of it. "Beautiful name." She blushed deeply. "Thank you, Mr. Montenegro." "Nicholas. You can call me Nicholas." Aurora stared at him, surprised. "That wouldn't be appropriate, sir." There was something in her formality that both frustrated and intrigued him. Nicholas was used to people who melted before him, who would do anything to please him. Aurora maintained a respectful distance, but without subservience. It was dignity, he realized. "Do you have family?" Nicholas asked, genuinely curious. "I do. I take care of my grandmother and 2 younger siblings." Aurora hesitated. "You, Nicholas, shouldn't be talking to me. People might find it strange." "What people?" "The other employees, the managers. It's not common for the owner to talk to, she gestured to herself, someone like me. Nicholas felt a pang of irritation, not with her, but with a system that made her feel lesser. What if I want to talk? Why would you want to? The question came out before Aurora could stop herself. Her eyes widened. Sorry, I didn't mean to be rude. The sincerity of the question disarmed him. Why, indeed? Because you're real, he said, surprising himself with his own honesty. Aurora didn't know how to respond. An uncomfortable silence formed between them, interrupted by the arrival of Carla, the cleaning supervisor. Aurora, we need to finish the 25th floor before 5. Carla stopped when she saw Nicholas. Mr. Montenegro, what an honor. I was just complimenting Aurora on her excellent work, Nicholas said, noticing how Aurora shrank slightly. Before the supervisor, after he walked away, Carla turned to Aurora with a knowing smile. Be careful, girl. Men like him don't talk to women like us for no reason, and when they do... She left the sentence hanging, implying. Carla's words echoed in Aurora's mind throughout the weekend. Of course, the supervisor was right. A man in Nicholas Montenegro's position wouldn't waste time on a cleaning lady without ulterior motives. The realization left her both relieved and inexplicably sad. On Monday, Aurora arrived at work determined to maintain professional distance if she encountered her boss again. She didn't. Nicholas had traveled to Los Angeles on business meetings, but she didn't know that. She interpreted his absence as confirmation of Carla's words. Nicholas, in Los Angeles, found himself checking the time constantly, anxious to return to New York. During a presentation about the acquisition of a new hotel, his mind wandered to sincere eyes and a shy smile. He realized that he missed her, a sensation he hadn't experienced in years. Wednesday night, Nicholas returned to the hotel. It was almost 10 o'clock, but he knew that the night cleaning crew would still be working. He found Aurora on the 18th floor, changing linens in a suite. Working late, he commented, leaning against the doorframe. Aurora turned around, visibly tense. Good evening, Mr. Montenegro. The formality was back, more rigid than before. Nicholas noticed the change. Did something happen? No, sir, everything's normal. Aurora continued working without looking at him. Aurora! His voice became more serious. You're avoiding me. She stopped, sighing. Mr. Montenegro, I need my job. I have a family to support. I can't afford misinterpretations. What interpretations? Aurora finally looked at him. People talk. They say that men in your position don't waste time with women like me without wanting something in return. The implicit accusation hit him like a punch. And you believe that? I can't afford not to believe it, she replied, turning back to the pillows. Nicholas felt anger. At himself, at the circumstances, at a world that made a simple conversation between two people impossible. He approached her, making her stop working. What if I told you that you're wrong, that I just enjoy your company? Aurora stared at him, and for a moment he saw vulnerability in her eyes. Then I would say that you're fooling yourself. We're from different worlds, Mr. Montenegro, and I know my place. Before Nicholas could answer, Aurora's cell phone rang. She answered quickly, and her expression changed to pure panic. What? When? I'm coming right now. She hung up with trembling hands. What happened? Nicholas asked, worried. My grandmother is sick. She's in the hospital. Aurora gathered her things desperately. I need to go. I'll take you. No, sir, thank you, but no. Aurora, it's almost 11 o'clock. How are you going to get to the hospital? By bus, subway. I'll manage. Nicholas saw her desperation and made a decision. I won't take no for an answer. Let's go. Aurora wanted to protest, but her concern for her grandmother outweighed everything. In the elevator, descending to the garage, She realized the enormity of what was happening. She was about to get into the car of the most powerful man she knew because of a family emergency that would expose her entire humble reality. It was exactly the type of situation she had always tried to avoid. The black Mercedes-Benz cut through the New York night in silence. Aurora was rigid in the passenger seat, watching the familiar streets of Manhattan pass by the window. Nicholas drove focused, respecting her silence laden with anxiety. "Which hospital?" he asked softly. "Bellevue Municipal Hospital." Aurora hesitated. "It's far, Mr. Montenegro. You don't need to—" "Nicholas," he corrected her for the second time, "and I already said I won't take no for an answer." The difference in their worlds became glaring when they arrived at the public hospital. Nicholas parked next to dented economy cars and old motorcycles. The building had peeling walls and a line of people waiting for treatment even at that hour. Aurora jumped out of the car quickly. "Thank you so much for the ride. You can leave, I'll take it from here." "I'm going with you," Nicholas said, locking the car. "No!" The response came out more abruptly than she intended. "Please, Nicholas, this isn't a place for you. The people will be staring, asking questions." Nicholas studied her for a moment. He saw shame in her eyes, not for her sick grandmother, but for the raw reality he was about to witness. "Are you ashamed of me or of your family?" The question left her speechless. Aurora realized it was a little of both, and that embarrassed her even more. "I'll wait here in the car then, but I won't leave until I know everything is okay." Aurora nodded, grateful for his understanding, and hurried into the hospital. Nicholas watched the movement through the half-open window. Young couples with babies in their arms, elderly people leaning on canes, workers still in uniform coming straight from their jobs. It was a side of America he knew only through statistics and financial reports. 40 minutes later, Aurora came out of the building, visibly relieved. She found Nicholas leaning against the hood of the car, talking to a hospital security guard about football. "How is she?" he asked immediately. "Better. It was high blood pressure, but it's under control now. She'll be hospitalized for precaution. Until tomorrow." Aurora seemed exhausted. "Thank you for waiting. I can take a bus now." "Aurora, it's 2 in the morning. I'll take you home." During the drive to Harlem, Aurora gave directions in an increasingly low voice. The streets became narrower, the buildings older. Nicholas perceived her growing tension. "There on the corner," she murmured when they arrived at a poorly lit street. Nicholas stopped in front of a 3-story building with peeling paint and a modest entrance. Aurora remained in the seat, clearly reluctant to get out. "Thank you for everything," she said, avoiding looking at him. "Aurora." Nicholas turned off the engine. "Can I ask a question?" She nodded without conviction. "Why do you diminish yourself so much? Since we met, you've acted as if you're less important than anyone else." The question caught Aurora off guard. She remained silent for a long moment, her eyes fixed on her own hands. "Because I learned that's my place," she said finally. "My parents died when I was 18. They left debts, a sick grandmother and 2 young boys to raise. I stopped studying. I started working as a cleaning lady. For 17 years, I've heard people talking about me as if I were invisible. Be careful what you say near the cleaning lady. She's just the cleaning girl. People like her don't understand these things." Aurora paused. "After a while, you start to believe it." Nicholas felt something break inside his chest. "And you never wanted anything different?" Aurora gave a sad smile. "Wanting and being able are different things. I was 17 when my father took me to see the hotel where he worked as a doorman. It was the first Santorini, still small. He said that one day I could study tourism, work at the front desk, grow in the company." Her voice became lower. 3 months later, he and my mother died in a car accident on the I-95. They were coming back from where? Atlantic City. They had gone to promise that I would get a scholarship. Aurora laughed bitterly. Ironic, isn't it? They died trying to get a better future for me." Nicholas was silent, processing the information. He vaguely remembered an accident involving an employee of the company years ago. His father was still alive and took care of these matters personally. "Aurora, what was your father's full name?" "Antonio Mendez." "Why?" Nicholas's stomach dropped. He remembered perfectly now. Antonio Mendez, an exemplary doorman killed along with his wife in a car accident when returning from a trip. His eldest daughter had assumed the responsibilities of the family. Nicholas was very young at the time, but he remembered his father commenting on the tragic situation of the Mendez family. What Aurora didn't know, what no one but him and some old executives knew, was that the accident had been investigated. The car that collided with Aurora's parents' car belonged to a drunk driver, the nephew of an important investor in the company. The case was hushed up, the driver received a minimal punishment, and the Mendez family received only the mandatory insurance from the company. His father had made the decision not to complicate things. "Business is business," he said at the time. Nicholas at 22 had agreed silently. Now, at 38, he realized that that decision had cost the future of the woman sitting next to him. "What is it?" Aurora asked, noticing his somber expression. "Nothing," Nicholas lied. "It's late. You should rest." Aurora got out of the car, but before closing the door, she leaned in. "Nicholas, thank you for tonight, for seeing me as a person, not as an employee. It doesn't happen often." After she disappeared into the building, Nicholas remained standing on the dark street, carrying the weight of a secret that could destroy any chance of something real between them. For the first time in years, he had found someone genuine, someone who made him want to be a better person. And he was, indirectly, responsible for the tragedy that had defined her entire life. A week had passed since the night at the hospital. Nicholas cancelled 3 business trips, inventing excuses to stay in New York. He visited the hotel daily, always finding pretexts to cross paths with Aurora. She, in turn, had lowered her guard after the vulnerability shared in the car. They talked in empty hallways. He asked about her grandmother. She inquired discreetly about his business. A strange friendship began to blossom, despite the social chasm between them. On Thursday morning, Aurora arrived at work and found Carla, the supervisor, strangely solicitous. "Aurora, honey, I need you to cover the event tonight in the main ballroom. Fernanda called in sick." Aurora frowned. "What event?" "Charity gala for New York's elite. There will be about 200 important guests. You'll coordinate the cleaning during the event, removing plates, cleaning tables, that kind of thing. It pays overtime." Aurora accepted without thinking much. She needed the extra money for her grandmother's medicine. At 7 o'clock, the hotel ballroom was transformed. Crystal chandeliers, tables decorated with white orchids, a small stage with a piano. Aurora wore the gala uniform, a simple black dress, a small white apron, her hair pulled back in an impeccable bun. Nicholas arrived accompanied by his mother, Helena Montenegro, an elegant 60-year-old woman, and Patricia Silvera, the plastic surgeon that his family insisted on pushing on him. Patricia wore an expensive red dress and smiled possessively at everyone who watched them. "Son, Patricia looks gorgeous today, don't you think?" Helena whispered while greeting other guests. Nicholas mumbled something polite, but his eyes scanned the ballroom. When he saw Aurora collecting empty glasses from a table in the back, his heart quickened. She looked different in the gala uniform, still discreet, but there was something almost aristocratic in her natural posture. Aurora had also seen him. She tried to remain invisible, as she always did during social events, but she felt his eyes on her. She forced herself not to look in his direction. The night proceeded without incident until the financial sector of the event was surprised by a technical problem. The online donation system had crashed right at the moment of the main auction. A trip to Paris donated by Nicholas himself. "We need someone who understands computers," the event organizer murmured to Nicholas. "If we can't solve this in 20 minutes, we're going to lose the night's donations." It was then that Aurora, passing nearby with a tray, overheard the conversation. "Excuse me," she said softly, approaching hesitantly. The organizer completely ignored her, but Nicholas saw her. "Aurora, I understand a little about computers. I took a technical course before." She hesitated. "Before my parents died. Can I take a look?" The organizer laughed condescendingly. "Thank you, but this is a complex professional system." "Let her try," Nicholas said firmly. Aurora approached the laptop set up on a side table. In 5 minutes, she had identified the problem, a simple plug-in conflict that she resolved with a few precise clicks. The system was working perfectly again. "How did you?" asked the organizer, dumbfounded. "I worked for 2 years as a secretary in a computer company," Aurora explained, blushing. Before I needed to change jobs." Nicholas watched her, fascinated. Another layer of Aurora revealed itself, further proof that circumstances, not ability, had defined her destiny. From that moment on, the night took a dangerous turn. Nicholas began to find excuses to approach Aurora. He asked for information about the hotel's operation, made comments about the guests that made her laugh discreetly. Patricia Silvera noticed her companion's distraction. "Nicholas, darling, you're very distracted today." But the real turning point came when Deborah Vanderbilt, a socialite known for her venomous tongue and the wife of a congressman, had drunk too much and decided to humiliate the help as a form of entertainment. "You there, waitress?" Deborah called out loud enough for several people to hear. Aurora approached politely. "Yes, ma'am? This champagne is warm. Bring another, but this time, taste it in front of me to make sure it's cold." Aurora blinked, confused. "Ma'am, I'm from the cleaning staff, not the bar service." "Oh, what difference does it make? You're all the same anyway." Deborah laughed loudly, looking at her friends. "People of this class aren't qualified for anything. Anyway." An embarrassing silence formed around them. Aurora felt her face burn with humiliation, but she maintained her composure. "I'll call someone from the bar for you, ma'am," she said with dignity. "No, I want you to get it. After all, what else are you good for?" It was then that Nicholas appeared next to Aurora with an expression that chilled the blood of everyone present. "Deborah," he said in a dangerously calm voice, "I think you've had too much to drink." "Nicholas, darling, I was just kidding with the girl here." "Aurora," Nicholas said, ignoring Deborah completely and turning to her, "could you accompany me for a moment? I need to discuss some details about the event." Aurora hesitated, realizing that everyone was looking at them. She accepted the arm he offered, and together they left the main ballroom towards the private balcony. "You didn't need to do that," Aurora said as soon as they were alone. "Yes, I did." Nicholas was visibly irritated. "No one has the right to treat you like that." "Nicholas, people like Mrs. Vanderbilt have always existed in my life. I know how to handle it." "But I don't." His voice came out louder than he intended. "I can't stand by and watch someone humiliate you." Aurora stared at him, surprised by the intensity in his voice. In the soft light of the balcony, with the sound of the party in the background, something changed between them. The tension they had been avoiding for weeks finally materialized. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why do you care so much?" Nicholas took a step forward. "You know, why?" Aurora knew. She saw in his eyes the same thing she felt growing inside herself, something impossible, reckless, and inevitable. "We can't," she whispered, but didn't pull away when he raised his hand to touch her face. "I know," he replied. But his fingers were already tracing the line of her cheek, The kiss happened as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Soft at first, then more intense when Aurora responded, forgetting for a few seconds who they were and where they were. When they separated, both were breathless and scared of their own audacity. "My God," Aurora murmured, "what are we doing?" Before Nicholas could answer, the sound of high heels on the marble alerted them. Patricia Silvera appeared at the door of the balcony, stopping abruptly when she saw the scene. For a few seconds that seemed eternal. No one moved. Patricia assimilated what she had just seen. Nicholas Montenegro, New York's most eligible bachelor, kissing a hotel employee. "Interesting," Patricia said finally with an icy smile. "Very interesting indeed." She turned and returned to the party, leaving Nicholas and Aurora paralyzed on the balcony, knowing that they had crossed a line from which there was no return. Patricia Silvera didn't waste time. The morning after the charity gala, she had already planted poisonous seeds in the right ears. A phone call to Liz Smith, a society columnist for the New York Post. Another to Wendy Williams, host of the most watched gossip show on New York TV. "Darling, you won't believe what I saw yesterday," Patricia whispered on the phone with Liz. Nicholas Montenegro, kissing a cleaning lady from his own hotel. A deplorable scene. Nicholas woke up to 17 missed calls from his secretary. When he returned them, Sonia's voice was strained. "Mr. Montenegro, we need to talk urgently. The press is already calling. And your mother, well, she's not at all happy." Aurora arrived at work unaware of the storm that was brewing. Carla, the supervisor, intercepted her before she could even get her uniform. "Aurora, I need to talk to you." The tone was serious, almost hostile. "You were seen last night in a compromising situation with the boss." Aurora's blood ran cold. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, girl. It's already reached management. The hotel director wants to see you at 2 o'clock. Carla approached, lowering her voice. "Listen, Aurora, I like you. But men like Nicholas Montenegro don't get involved with women like us. They play around, have fun, and then discard us. You have a family to support. Don't do anything stupid." At 2 o'clock, Aurora found herself in the office of Fernando Cardoso, the general manager of the hotel. A 50-year-old man, impeccably dressed, who looked at her as if she were a problem to be solved. "Miss Mendez, let's get straight to the point. Rumors have reached my attention about an inappropriate involvement of yours with the owner of the company. Sir, I can explain." "You don't need to explain anything," Fernando interrupted her. "I know that women in your position can get confused when they receive attention from powerful men. It's natural, but I need to make it clear that any attempt to take advantage of this situation will be treated with the utmost rigor." Aurora felt the humiliation burn her chest. "I would never do that. Of course not. That's why I'm going to make things easier for you." Fernando opened a drawer and took out an envelope. "Here's a proposal for a transfer to our hotel in Miami. Same salary, company apartment included. You leave New York, away from temptation, and keep your job. And if I refuse?" Fernando's smile was icy. "Well, we can always review your performance over the past few months. I'm sure we'll find reasons for a termination for cause." Meanwhile, Nicholas faced a similar battle on the 40th floor of the Santorini Tower building. Helena Montenegro had arrived accompanied by David Stern, the family lawyer and husband of the socialite who had humiliated Aurora the night before. "Son, I need to know if what they're saying is true," Helena said, visibly shaken. "Mum, there's nothing to worry about." "Nothing?" David Stern rose from the armchair. "Nicholas, my wife saw you kissing. The press is already speculating. This could seriously affect the company's reputation." "The company is mine," Nicholas replied coldly. "But the investors aren't," the lawyer retorted. "You have an image to uphold, a fortune of billions to protect. If this leaks to the press. Helena approached her son. Nicholas, I understand that you may have felt attracted to the girl. She's pretty, simple, but you need to think about what this represents. Our name, our history. What history, Mom? The one of exploiting people like her family? The question came out before Nicholas could stop himself. Helena blinked, confused. What are you talking about? Nicholas realized he had said too much. The secret about the accident of Aurora's parents weighed on his conscience, but he couldn't reveal it without completely destroying any chance with her. Forget it. I'm not going to discuss my personal life with you. So you admit there's something? David pressed. Before Nicholas could answer, the secretary Sonia knocked on the door. Mr. Montenegro, this has arrived for you. She handed him a sealed envelope. Nicholas opened it and found a single photo. Him and Aurora kissing on the balcony in high definition. On the back, a typed message. The paper comes out tomorrow. Unless you make the right decisions, I await your contact. P.S. Patricia, Nicholas murmured, recognizing the initial. Helena saw the photo over her son's shoulder and paled. My God, Nicholas, this can't become public. Why? Nicholas was losing patience. Why can't you accept that I might be interested in a real woman who works honestly? Because she's an opportunist, Helena exploded. These women always are. She saw a chance to climb the ladder and took advantage of you. You don't know Aurora. I know the type. Helena was visibly agitated. Nicholas, for God's sake, be rational. Do you think a cleaning lady would be interested in you if she didn't? Know who you are? If you were an ordinary man? The question hit Nicholas like a slap. It was exactly the insecurity he had carried for years, never knowing if he was loved for himself or for what he represented. Even knowing that Aurora was different, the doubt planted by his mother found fertile ground in his deepest fears. David Stern seized the moment of vulnerability. Nicholas, be practical. You can have any woman in America. Patricia Silvera is beautiful, cultured, from your social class. Why complicate things with someone who will only bring problems? What if I don't want Patricia? Then choose another, Helena said. But someone appropriate. Someone who doesn't embarrass our family. Nicholas looked at the photo again. Aurora seemed so vulnerable, so genuine in that moment. But his mother's words echoed. Do you think she'd be interested in you if she didn't know who you are? I need to resolve this, he said finally. How? Nicholas sighed, feeling the weight of the circumstances. The way it has to be resolved. That afternoon, Aurora received an unexpected call. It was Nicholas. Can we meet? I need to talk to you. They met in the same place where they had talked after the night at the hospital, the hotel parking lot at 9 o'clock at night. But this time, the atmosphere was completely different. Aurora arrived first, anxious. When Nicholas appeared, she immediately noticed the tension on his face. Aurora, we need to talk about last night. I know, she said quickly. It was a mistake. It shouldn't have happened. Nicholas studied her. Do you really believe that? Aurora hesitated. The truth was that she hadn't been able to stop thinking about the kiss, about the feeling of being in his arms. But the conversation with Carla and the meeting with the director had made everything very clear. Nicholas, I have a family to support, a job to keep. What happened yesterday was beautiful, but it can't happen again. What if I told you that I don't care about the consequences? Aurora stared at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes, but also the conflict. But you do care. You have an empire to run, a family, responsibilities. I'm just a complication in your life. You're not a complication. No, Aurora laughed bitterly. Then why do you look so tormented? Why did it take you all day to call me? Nicholas didn't know how to answer, because she was right. He had spent the whole day weighing pros and cons, listening to arguments about reputation and social convenience. His silence was answer enough for Aurora. That's it, she said softly. I understand, Nicholas. I really understand. You're a good man, but we're from different worlds. Maybe it's better if I accept the transfer to Miami. Transfer? Nicholas frowned. What transfer? Aurora realized she had said too much. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we know this can't work. But Nicholas was already connecting the dots. Someone is pressuring you to leave New York. Nicholas. Who was it? Fernando? My mother. Aurora didn't answer, but her expression confirmed his suspicions. This isn't going to end like this, Nicholas said, his jaw tight. Please don't do anything, Aurora begged. It'll only make things worse, for both of us. Nicholas watched her for a long moment. Aurora was giving up the fight, passively accepting that circumstances would decide for them. And maybe she was right. Maybe it really was better this way. All right, he said finally, if that's what you want. Aurora nodded, but Nicholas saw tears forming in her eyes. It's not what I want, she whispered, but it's what needs to happen. When Aurora left the parking lot that night, both knew that something precious had been lost. What they didn't know was that Patricia Silvera had hired a private investigator to follow them, and that every word of the conversation had been recorded. The blackmail was just beginning. On Monday morning, Nicholas woke up to the phone ringing insistently. It was Sonia, his secretary, with a voice choked with panic. Mr. Montenegro, you need to see the paper and the internet. It's terrible. The headline of the New York Post screamed in bold letters, "Hotel Tycoon involved with cleaning lady, love or gold digging." The photo occupied half of the front page, him and Aurora kissing on the balcony, but edited to make it look even more intimate and compromising. Nicholas read the article with a sinking feeling. Patricia had given a venomous interview, painting Aurora as a calculating opportunist who had seduced the innocent millionaire. Even worse, there were details of Aurora's personal life that could only have come from an investigation. The death of her parents, the family's financial situation, even information about her younger siblings. Aurora Mendez, 35, has worked for 17 years as a cleaning lady in the Montenegro hotels. Sources close to her reveal that she deliberately approached her boss, using her life story as bait to awaken the tycoon's pity. She was always very clever, reveals a colleague who preferred not to be identified. She knew exactly how to use her personal tragedies to get what she wanted. Nicholas's phone didn't stop ringing. Concerned investors, board members, journalists asking for statements. His mother arrived at the office before 9 o'clock, carrying 3 different newspapers. Are you seeing what this has led to? Helena threw the periodicals on the table. The company has already lost 2% of its stock value since the news came out. Meanwhile, in the small apartment in Harlem, Aurora was living her worst nightmare. Journalists camped at the door, neighbors gossiping, photographers trying to capture images of her arriving or leaving. Her brother Bruno, 16, arrived home from school with his face swollen from being beaten. They said you're a prostitute, he said, crying, that you're selling yourself to a rich guy. I had to fight 5 guys. Aurora hugged her brother, feeling her heart shatter. Carla, 12, had locked herself in her room and refused to go to school. Grandma Aurora is sick again, Bruno said. I think it's her blood pressure. She won't stop crying and repeating that it's her fault for not being able to give you a better life. Aurora ran to her grandmother's room and found her lying down, breathing with difficulty. Her eyes were red from crying. My granddaughter, what a shame, the elderly woman murmured. Everyone on the street is talking. They say you've become a rich man's mistress, that you've abandoned your family. Grandma, it's not like that. I can explain. You fell in love with him, didn't you? Her grandmother's question came quietly but accurately. Aurora couldn't lie. She nodded, tears running freely. "Oh, my daughter, love doesn't choose social class, but society does, and it's cruel to women like us." At the hotel, Aurora's situation was untenable. Fernando Cardoso called her to the office even before she could start working. "Miss Mendez, I believe the situation has become unsustainable. The presence of the press is disrupting the operation of the hotel. Guests are complaining." "Sir, I can explain." "There's nothing to explain. The scandal has already formed." Fernando pushed a termination for cause letter across the table. "Inappropriate conduct with a superior. Sign here." "But I need this job. I have a family." "You should have thought about that before getting involved with someone you shouldn't have." Aurora looked at the paper, seeing 17 years of honest work being reduced to an unfounded accusation. "And if I don't sign, then we'll go to court, and I guarantee we'll find other irregularities in your record. You'll never get a job in a respectable company again." With trembling hands, Aurora signed the letter. As she left the hotel for the last time, she found Nicholas waiting outside. He was leaning against his car with a somber expression. "Aurora, we need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about," she said, trying to pass him. "I can fix this. I can buy the silence of the journalists, sue whoever spread lies." Aurora turned to face him, and Nicholas was frightened by the pain in her eyes. "Fix what, Nicholas? Officially turning me into your mistress? Putting me in an apartment for you to visit whenever you want?" "It's not like that." "Then what? Are you going to marry me?" The question came loaded with bitterness. "Are you going to take the cleaning lady to meet your friends, your family? Are you going to introduce me at charity galas as your wife?" Nicholas hesitated, not because he didn't want to, but because he knew it would be impossible. His mother would never accept it. Investors would question his sanity. High society would crucify them. His silence was more eloquent than any word. "That's it," Aurora said, tears running freely. "You know you can't. You want to love me in secret, hide me as if I were a shame." "Aurora, it's not like that. It's exactly like that." She exploded, all the pain and humiliation of the last few days overflowing. "You made me believe I was special, that I was worth something. But in the end, I'm just the cleaning lady who's not good enough to be by your side publicly." "Please, let me explain." "Explain what? That you spent 2 days weighing whether I was worth the risk? That your family and your lawyers spent 2 days calculating how much I would cost for your reputation?" Aurora laughed bitterly. "You know what the difference is between us, Nicholas. I would claim you anywhere, in front of anyone. Because when you truly love someone, you're not ashamed." The accusation hit Nicholas hard, because it was true. He was ashamed, not of her, but of what people would think. And that made him hate himself. "Aurora, I lost my job because of you," she continued, her voice choked. "My family is being humiliated. My grandmother is sick with shame. My brothers were beaten up at school. And you know what? I'd do it all again. Because those moments with you were the only ones in my life where I felt special, important, loved." She approached him, touching his face one last time. "But you can't say the same, can you?" Nicholas closed his eyes, feeling her touch like a farewell. "Goodbye, Nicholas. Be happy with someone from your world." Aurora turned away, walking down the street while photographers followed her. Nicholas stood still, watching the woman he loved disappear among the people, knowing that he had lost her forever. That night, a new piece of news exploded in the papers. Patricia Silvera had leaked the recording of the conversation between Nicholas and Aurora in the parking lot, maliciously edited to make it seem like he was offering money in exchange for sexual favors. In an exclusive recording obtained by the news outlet, tycoon Nicholas Montenegro can be heard offering to resolve the situation of cleaning Lady Aurora Mendez. Experts in abusive relationships classify the behavior as predatory. When Nicholas heard the distorted recording on the news, He knew there was no going back. Aurora would never believe him again. The world would never leave them alone. At 3 in the morning, he received a call from his mother. Nicolas, Aurora Mendez is gone. She and her family left the apartment in the early hours. No one knows where they went. Nicholas hung up the phone and for the first time in years cried. He cried for the woman he lost, for the cowardice he showed, for the love he let slip away, for not having the courage to fight the world. Aurora had disappeared, taking with her the only real chance of happiness he had ever had, and he knew that the fault was entirely his. 2 months had passed since Aurora's disappearance. Nicholas had hired the best private investigators in the country, but she and her family seemed to have evaporated. No trace, no clue. Guilt consumed him daily. The company suffered the consequences of the scandal. 3 major investors had withdrawn their support. 2 hotels faced boycotts organized by feminist groups that painted him as a predator, and Nicholas had become persona non grata in New York high society. Patricia Silvera, ironically, had emerged as a heroine of the situation, being invited to TV shows as the courageous woman who exposed the abusive behavior of a powerful man. It was Helena Montenegro who brought the first clue, appearing in Nicholas's office with a somber expression. "Son, I need to tell you something that I should have told you a long time ago." Nicholas raised his eyes from the papers he was signing mechanically. "What is it, Mom?" "It's about Aurora's family, about how her parents died." Nicholas's stomach dropped. "Mom, your father made me promise that I would never tell, but I can't carry this weight anymore." Helena sat down, seeming to have aged years in just a few months. "The accident wasn't accidental, Nicholas. The driver who hit Aurora's parents' car was drunk. It was Ryan Stern, nephew of the lawyer David." "I know," Nicholas said softly. Helena's eyes widened. "You know." "I found out a few weeks ago. That's why I was so conflicted, Mom. Aurora doesn't know that our family was responsible for covering up the case." "My God," murmured Helena. "And you didn't tell her?" "How could I? She already hates me. If she knew that I'm also responsible for the death of her parents—" Helena was silent for a few moments. "Nicholas, there's something more, something that could change everything." "What?" "Your secretary Sonia contacted me yesterday. She discovered something about Patricia Silvera." Meanwhile, 100 miles from New York City, in a small town in upstate New York called Beacon, Aurora worked as a waitress in a simple diner. She had chosen that place precisely because it was a place where no one would read New York papers or be interested in scandals from high society. The family had adapted as best they could. Her grandmother had improved a little with the fresh air of the mountains. Bruno had gotten enrolled in a technical school, and Carla had made new friends. But Aurora carried a constant pain in her chest, a longing she couldn't heal. At night, when everyone was asleep, she allowed herself to cry and remember the moments with Nicholas. The kiss on the balcony, the conversations in the hotel hallways, the sincere kindness in his eyes. She tried to convince herself that it had all been a lie, but her heart knew it wasn't. It was on one of those melancholy nights that Carla, her 12-year-old sister, sat next to her on the small balcony of the rented apartment. "Aurora, you still love him, right?" Aurora looked at her sister, surprised by her insight. "Why do you ask that?" "Because you cry every night, and because whenever something comes on TV about businessmen or hotels, you change the channel really fast." Aurora sighed. "It doesn't matter what I feel, Carla. Some things aren't possible. But if he really loved you, wouldn't he have come after you?" Her sister's innocent question touched on the most painful point. If Nicholas really loved her, he wouldn't have let her simply disappear. He wouldn't have passively accepted her leaving his life. In New York, Nicholas finally obtained the answers he sought. Sonia had been discreet but efficient. For weeks, she had investigated Patricia Silvera and discovered a web of lies and manipulations. Mr. Montenegro, Sonia said, entering the office with a thick folder. Dr. Patricia is not who she seems to be. Explain. She's broke. Her clinic went bankrupt 6 months ago, but she managed to hide that from the press. She owed money to everyone, suppliers, employees, even loan sharks. Nicholas frowned. And what does that have to do with Aurora? Everything, sir. I gained access to her emails. Sonia opened the folder, revealing printouts of conversations. She was being blackmailed by creditors. They threatened to expose her financial situation if she didn't find a way to get money quickly. Nicholas read the emails, his anger growing with each line. Patricia saw you becoming interested in Aurora and decided it was the perfect opportunity, Sonia continued. If she could separate you and marry you, she would solve all her financial problems. But why destroy Aurora's reputation like that? Because she knew that just separating you wouldn't be enough. You might go after her, so she decided to make that impossible, creating a scandal so big that Aurora would never want to see you again. Nicholas got up from his chair, walking to the window. And it worked. Sir, there's more. I got the original recording of the conversation between you and Aurora in the parking lot, not the edited version that ended up in the papers. Sonia connected a flash drive to the computer and played the audio. Nicholas heard his own voice, clear and emotional, declaring his love for Aurora. He heard her voice, breaking with pain as she said goodbye. No words about money, no sordid insinuations. Patricia digitally edited the recording, Sonia explained. She cut sentences and rearranged them to create a completely different narrative. Nicholas's anger reached a dangerous level. Where is she now? At home, sir, but what? She's not alone. David Stern is with her, and from what I could find out, they're planning something for tonight. Nicholas checked his watch. 7 o'clock in the evening. What kind of thing? I'm not sure, but I intercepted a call from her scheduling a press conference for 9 o'clock. She said she had bombshell revelations about the true character of Nicholas Montenegro. Nicholas felt his blood boil. Patricia wasn't content with destroying his chance of happiness with Aurora. Now, she wanted to destroy him completely. Sonia, I need 3 things urgently. First, I want all the originals of Patricia's recordings and emails. Second, I want the best criminal lawyers in New York in my office in 1 hour. And third, sir? Nicholas turned to her with a determination he hadn't felt in months. I want you to find Aurora. Use all the necessary resources, hire all the help you need. I don't care about the cost. Sir, may I ask why? Because I'm going to clear her name publicly. I'm going to expose this whole charade. And if she still wants to give me a chance after everything she's gone through because of me... Nicholas paused, swallowing the lump in his throat. I need to at least try. While Nicholas prepared for the battle that would define not only his reputation, but his future, alongside the woman he loved, Aurora was in the small apartment in Beacon, unaware that in a few hours her life would change again. She had just put her siblings to sleep when her cell phone rang with an unknown number. Hello, Aurora Mendez. Who wants to know? My name is Sonia. I work for Nicholas Montenegro. I really need to talk to you. It's about the truth behind everything that happened. Aurora felt her heart race. I have nothing to talk about that. Ma'am, I know you were hurt a lot, but there are things you need to know about Patricia Silvera, about the lies they spread, about what really happened. Why should I believe you? Because in 2 hours, the truth will be revealed publicly, with or without you, but Nicholas believes that you deserve to know the truth first. Aurora was silent, her mind racing. Part of her wanted to hang up and never hear the name Nicholas Montenegro again. But another part, the one that still loved him desperately, needed to know. Where? Aurora arrived in New York City at 8:40 in the evening. With her, Heart beating erratically, Sonia had taken her directly to the main lobby of the Waldorf Astoria Premium Hotel, the same place where everything had started months ago. But now, the environment was completely transformed. Dozens of journalists, TV cameras, photographers, and curious onlookers crowded the event hall. A stage had been set up with microphones and a screen. Aurora recognized familiar faces from the New York press, all anxiously awaiting another chapter in the scandal that had dominated the headlines. "What's happening?" Aurora asked Sonia, nervous. Patricia Silvera scheduled a press conference to completely destroy Mr. Montenegro's reputation, but he got there first. Aurora saw Nicholas on the stage, impeccably dressed in a dark suit, but with an expression she had never seen before. Absolute determination mixed with vulnerability. Next to him were two lawyers and a computer technician. "Ladies and gentlemen of the press," Nicholas began, his voice echoing through the hall. "You were summoned here today to hear more accusations against me. But before that happens, I want to share some truths that you have the right to know." At the back of the hall, Patricia Silvera and David Stern watched with growing nervousness. 2 months ago, an honest and hard-working woman had her life destroyed by an orchestrated defamation campaign. Aurora Mendez was painted as an opportunist, a gold digger, a blackmailer. Every word was a calculated lie. Nicholas signaled the technician who activated the sound system. The original recording of the conversation in the parking lot echoed through the hall, clear, unedited, showing two people saying goodbye with genuine love and pain. "This is the real recording of our conversation. Compare it with the version that was released in the newspapers." The contrast was shocking. Murmurs spread through the hall as journalists checked their own recordings. "But the manipulation doesn't stop there," Nicholas continued. The screen lit up with emails and financial documents. "Patricia Silvera has been bankrupt for 6 months. Her clinic has closed. She owes millions to creditors and loan sharks. She saw in me a financial lifeline." Patricia rose from her chair, her face pale. "This is defamation. You can't—" "I can prove every word," Nicholas interrupted. "I have here the proofs of her debts, the threats she received from creditors, and mainly—" He paused dramatically. "The conversations where she deliberately plans to destroy Aurora, to force me to marry her." The cameras turned to Patricia, who tried to leave the hall discreetly. Reporters immediately surrounded her, bombarding her with questions. "But there is something even more serious," Nicholas continued, his voice becoming more intense. 17 years ago, Aurora's parents died in a car accident. The person responsible was Ryan Stern, nephew of the lawyer David Stern, who is present in this room. David Stern visibly paled. "Ryan was drunk, but the case was covered up. The Montenegro family, under the leadership of my father, decided to protect an important investor at the expense of justice. Aurora grew up in poverty, supporting her family because our company denied her and her siblings the compensation they deserved." The hall exploded in shocked murmurs. Aurora, in the back, felt her legs weaken. Sonia held her by the arm. "For 17 years, I carried this secret without knowing that one day I would fall in love with the woman that our cowardice condemned to poverty." Nicholas paused, searching for Aurora in the crowd until he found her eyes. "Aurora, if you're listening to me, I want you to know that our company will fully repair the mistake committed against your family. But mainly, I want you to know that none of this changes what I feel for you." Aurora felt tears streaming down her face. Everything made sense now. The guilt she sometimes perceived in his eyes, the way he treated her with such reverence, as if he were trying to redeem himself for something. "I made mistakes," Nicholas continued, his voice breaking slightly. The biggest one was not having the courage to fight for our love when people tried to tear us apart. I let social pressure, prejudices, and my own fears be stronger than my feelings. He approached the edge of the stage, speaking directly to the cameras, but Aurora knew that every word was for her. Aurora Mendez is the most dignified, honest, and courageous woman I have ever met. She loved me for who I was, not for what I had. And I loved her for the purity of her heart, for the strength of her character, for the way she took care of her family with so much love. Aurora began to walk toward the stage, pushed by a force greater than her own will. If she gives me a second chance, I'll spend the rest of my life proving that I'm worthy of her love. I'm no longer going to hide behind social conventions or family pressures. And if she doesn't give you that chance, a journalist shouted. Nicholas smiled sadly. Then I'll respect her decision and carry forever the certainty that I lost the great love of my life out of pure cowardice. At that moment, Aurora reached the front of the stage. The entire hall turned to her, cameras and flashes firing, but she only had eyes for Nicholas, who watched her with a mixture of hope and terror. "Can I come up there?" she asked, her voice choked. Nicholas descended from the stage and offered his hand to help her up. Their touch, after so many months, sent an electric current through both of them. On the stage, under the spotlights and in front of hundreds of people, Aurora faced Nicholas face to face. "You lied to me," she said, loud enough to be heard by everyone. Nicholas lowered his head. "Yes. You hurt me deeply. Yes. You made me believe that I wasn't worth anything." "Aurora," and yet, she interrupted, placing her hands on his face, "I never stopped loving you. Not for a second." The hall exploded in applause and cheers, but they heard nothing. Nicholas pulled her into his arms, kissing her with all the passion pent up from months of separation. When they separated, both were crying. "Forgive me?" he whispered. "I already have," she replied, "but you're going to have to earn my trust again. I'll spend the rest of my life doing that if you let me." Aurora smiled, the first genuine smile in months. "I think we can try." Nicholas knelt on the stage, taking a small case from his inside coat pocket. The hall became absolutely silent. "Aurora Mendez, will you marry me? Not my money, not my status, but me, with all my flaws, fears, and imperfections." Aurora looked at the simple but beautiful ring, then at the man kneeling before her. She saw absolute sincerity in his eyes, true love, total vulnerability. "Yes," she said, and then shouted for everyone to hear. "Yes!" The hall exploded in celebration. Flashes fired, reporters shouted questions, guests applauded standing, but Nicholas and Aurora only saw each other. 6 months later, they were married. In an intimate ceremony at Nicholas's house in the Hamptons, Aurora wore a simple but elegant dress chosen by herself. Nicholas cried when he saw her enter, walking alongside her grandmother, who had finally recovered her health. Bruno and Carla were the ring bearer and the maid of honor. Helena Montenegro, who had learned to love Aurora as the daughter she never had, personally organized every detail of the party. Aurora never went back to working as a cleaning lady, not because she was ashamed of the profession, but because Nicholas convinced her to finish the tourism course she had abandoned years ago. She graduated with honors and went to work in the area of social responsibility of the company, creating aid programs for employees in vulnerable situations. Patricia Silveira was sued for defamation, slander, and blackmail. Convicted, she spent 2 years in prison and permanently lost the right to practice medicine. David Stern was disbarred when his participation in covering up the accident that killed Aurora's parents was proven. And on a sunny Sunday afternoon, 1 year after the wedding, Aurora and Nicholas walked along the beach in the Hamptons. She 6 months pregnant with a girl who would be named Helena, in honor of the mother-in-law. who had become her second mother. "Do you regret anything?" Nicholas asked, stopping to kiss his wife's forehead. Aurora smiled, placing her hand on her belly. "Nothing, not even the pain we went through, because it taught us the true value of love. I love you, Aurora Montenegro. I love you too, forever." And there, on the beach, where thousands of love stories began and ended every day, theirs continued, stronger, truer, more beautiful with each passing day, because they had learned that true love knows no social classes, is not ashamed of its choices, and when it's real, always finds a way to win.